All right, welcome to the Mazey tutorial. I'm going to show you how to connect to Mazey from a Windows machine. I'll also show you how to take files off of the Mazey robot, make some edits locally on your Windows machine, and then send those files back and run them on the Mazey robot. Okay, so let's get started. So here's your Mazey robot. You know that it utilizes a Raspberry Pi A+. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is insert the micro SD card that acts as the hard drive for this robot. So on the underside, on the back of the Mazey, this lifts up and you're going to see that there's a little slot for the SD card on the underside of the Raspberry Pi. You're just going to want to make sure that the gold-plated side of the micro SD card is pointing up. You just simply slide it into the SD card slot, and when you hear the click, you know that you're correctly inserted the SD card. Alright, now here is the top circuit board of the Raspberry Pi. There's a large toggle switch. You just want to go ahead and turn that on. That will turn on the Mazey robot. One thing I do want to point out is there are two lights here on the back of the Raspberry Pi. The red light just signifies that the Raspberry Pi is on. Now the blinking greenish yellow light, that's sort of like the hard drive light on a Windows machine, showing you that the hard drive is working. What this is showing you is that there are scripts running that are helping to boot up the Linux operating system on that Raspberry Pi. What this robot is doing, it's broadcasting a Wi-Fi network, and based upon your SD card, your teacher should show you what your network ID is. So if I go over to my Windows machine and I click the Wi-Fi icon, you're going to see all the available networks. So this specific robot that I just turned on is broadcasting a network called Mazey Robot 1. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. I usually do not do the connect automatically. I uncheck that option and then I click connect. What it's going to do is ask you for the password. Your teacher should have provided you with the password. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Okay. And then hit next. And then this is only going to ask you this question one time. Just hit yes. And then it's going to say check your network requirements. And then down here, you're going to see that you get the caution sign that says no internet access. And that's fine because the Mazey robot's not broadcasting internet. So at this point, once you're connected and it says no internet access, you're good to use this program called PuTTY. So I'm going to open up PuTTY, and it's pretty simple. SSH is our default protocol, and that's what we'll be using to connect to the Mazey robot. The host name, everyone's host name is the same, and it's just an IP address. It's 192.168.42.1. Port 22 stays the same, and then you click open. All right, you're going to get this window. It's going to ask you to log in as. Everyone's login as name is the same. It's Pi. And then the password it asks you for is the same password as the Wi-Fi network. So I'll put that in. Just keep note that as I'm typing, nothing is showing up on the screen. That's normal. After you type your password, you hit enter. And if you were successful, you should get this screen here, which is showing you that you now have access to a terminal on the Raspberry Pi A+ of your Mazey robot. Okay, so just a few things. Everyone's terminal, when they first log in, kind of looks the same. It'll be pi at whatever their robot name is. Just a quick few Linux commands that are useful. ls will list what is in the current directory. pwd will show you the current directory. So right now I'm at home pi in the file system of the Raspberry Pi. All of the useful scripts are in the useful scripts folder. So how do you change into that directory? You use the cd command and then the name of the directory. Now you could type us here, and then if you hit tab, Linux will try to auto-complete it for you if it sees something in that directory that only has the us or whatever the first few letters are that of your file name or your folder. You hit enter. Now you're in useful scripts. Another ls will show you what scripts are available. All right, so here we go. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to run a few tests here to see that everything is working properly. The first thing that you might want to check every time that you log into your Raspberry Pi is to make sure that your digital sensors are working. So you'll see that on the top of the Raspberry Pi here on the right side, it's going to be hard to see in the video, but there are LEDs that go on and off when you activate or deactivate some of these sensors. I'm going to run the digital sensor test file, this Python file. It is sudo, right? So this is just your super user command, and then Python is the shortcut to the Python interpreter, and then again I'm going to type DIG and hit tab, and hopefully that auto completes. So let's run this, and you're going to see all of the sensors right now are outputting a 1 or a digital high. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just put a wall so that it deactivates the left side. So from the back view of the mouse, the left side here, I have triggered the 10 centimeter sensor. So I should be able to see that over here on my terminal. So if I hit the up arrow, that'll give me previous commands in my Linux terminal, and I hit enter. I'm going to see that, there you go, the left 10 centimeter sensor output is a 0. That's because it's blocked. Let me move in this wall a little closer. Now I've actually triggered both the 10 and the 5 on the left-hand side, and sure enough, they're both reading 0 because they're triggered. The next script you should run upon starting up the Raspberry Pi is going to be the test motors file. So let me just do an ls here. So we're going to want to run this test motors file. What this does, it makes the Mazey robot go forward for 2 seconds, goes in reverse for 2 seconds, turns left for 2 seconds, and then turns right for 2 seconds. We run this script upon starting the robot just to make sure that the H-bridge chip, which allows bidirectional motor control for DC motors, we just want to make sure that's functioning. So to run that again, you do sudo python for the Python interpreter, and then test motors file. So testmotors.py. So let's see if it works. All right, so it looks like that was successful and ran no problem. You're going to see if you run this file more than one time, you're going to get a few errors. So here's what you can do. If you don't want to look at the warnings, I should have said they're not errors, they're warnings. If you want to ignore those, you could do something like this. So if I hit the up arrow, after Python, you want to do -W and then ignore. What that'll do is it'll just basically ignore those warnings. So if I run this again, you're going to see that I just get the script output where it's printing to the screen exactly what the robot is doing. Okay, so you run those two files. You're going to want to run digital sensor test and then also test motors. All right, so let me show you how you would want to get some of these files off of the Mazey robot, because editing here in the terminal is difficult. You can do it, so let me show you as an example. If you do sudo and then there's a program that's in the terminal already called Nano, it's sort of a text editor. So let's look at test motors, what it looks like. So when you open up the script, you can see that, it looks like a Python script. There is some syntactical highlighting, but it's very difficult. It's very hard to copy. There's shortcuts to do a bunch of things, but it's very difficult to edit here. If you ever do open this up and just want to look at it, if you want to get out of it without making a change, you just hit Control X and then you're out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the program that we're going to use to transfer files. It's called FileZilla. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to go up here to host. Now you're only going to actually have to type this one time. So you're going to do SFTP : //. We don't want to check for updates. So it's SFTP : 2 forward slashes and then that IP address 192.168.42.1. The username pi. The password the same as described earlier, and then port 22, and then you just hit quick connect. Now you'll know you're in when on the right side of the screen here you start to see the desktop folder and user script folder that we kind of saw up here when we first logged in. All right, we're able to see those two folders. So the right side is the file system of your Mazey robot. So if we double click useful scripts, you're going to see that it shows you those scripts that are sitting on the Raspberry Pi. The left-hand side, this is going to be your local Windows machine file system. So what we want to do is, I always like to make a folder. So you're going to see on the desktop here up top, I made a folder called Mazey Scripts. I like to keep all of my scripts from the robot together. So all I need to do then is to find it over here on the local file system. So I'm going to double-click desktop, and then I'm going to go double-click Mazey Scripts, and you can see that that folder is empty. Now, how do I get files from the Mazey side on the right to the Windows side on the left? You simply drag and drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm simply going to take digital sensor test and I'm going to drag it over here. And then you'll see that now there's a digital sensor test on my local file system. I can now open up that folder, Mazey Scripts, and see that I now have a file. Now the next part is you're going to be editing these Python scripts on your local Windows machine. There's a nice free program called Notepad++. So let me open that up. It's just a very nice text editor for computer programming languages, and it has, an A to Z here listing of all the different programming languages that you can code in. It won't run them, but it'll at least syntactically highlight everything, and you're going to see that Python is an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Open. I'm going to go ahead to my desktop to that Mazey scripts folder, and then open up Digital Sensor Test. And then I'm going to see that I have it here, and it's nicely syntactically highlighted for me. All right, so here's all I'm going to do. I just want to make a quick edit to this and then send it back on FileZilla and then run it for you, just to show you that that's the process that you should use when you're creating files that you want to run on your robot. You could start with some of these example scripts, take them off with FileZilla, make some edits in your favorite program like Notepad++, save that file, send it back over with FileZilla, and then run it on the Raspberry Pi that's on your Mazey robot. So let me just add a print statement here at the very end. So I'm going to say print, I'm going to say hello Mazey, and just see if that actually prints out when I run this. Now here's another thing. Digital Sensor Test exists over on that Mazey robot. I don't want to rewrite that file. So what you should get used to doing is saving these files that you edit, either something that looks like this, maybe _v2 for version 2, or just completely rename the file. And it's up to you, but just try to get in that habit of actually saving new files with different file names. So I'm going to hit save. Now this file is saved on my local machine, so if I go back here to FileZilla and I hit the refresh icon, you're going to see that v2 is now listed on my local machines directory. I can then drag that over to the Pi. All right, it shows that it's over here on in the Pi and FileZilla. Let's go check PuTTY. All right, so here we are. We're still in useful scripts. If I hit ls, there it is. Digital Sensor Test _v2. It is on the Raspberry Pi A+ on your Mazey robot. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and run that. I'll explain what the different colors here are in a second. So I'm going to do sudo python and then digital sensor test, and then I'll have to complete it with the _v2, and let's run it. And there we go. We got a hello Mazey at the end of the outputs for the digital sensors. So it did work. Now the difference between the colors, the green ones, they're actually, if I do a different type of listing, they just refer to the privileges that are extended to that specific file. So what we have for the green ones, we don't want you to really mess with the green files. We want those to stay the same. So we actually have those opened up for everyone. And then any file that you add should actually show up as a grayed out file name. Okay. Now, this is towards the end of the video. The last thing I want to show you is one of the very important commands, and it's to shut down your Mazey robot. So here's the shutdown command. It's sudo shutdown -h now. Now before I hit it, when I run this, you're going to get a warning that pops up that says your PuTTY or your terminal has lost connection. That's fine. That's because the robot is actually shutting down. So if I do that, I get the server unexpectedly closed. That's because the Raspberry Pi has essentially turned off its broadcast Wi-Fi network. Hit OK. I could close this out. I could go ahead and close out FileZilla because that won't be connected anymore, and then your Mazey is shutting down. One quick addition to this Mazey connection video, just in case you're using a Mac product or a computer that is actually running its own Linux operating system, you will not have to use PuTTY to connect to the Mazey robot. Mac and Linux operating systems have a built-in terminal. So what you would want to do is this. You want to first go to your Wi-Fi, connect to your Mazey robot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to prompt me for the password. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Click join. You should get a solid Wi-Fi icon once you're connected. And then you're going to open up terminal. So I had it down here in my my applications dock, but you could actually just search for terminal in your Spotlight on Mac. Open it up, and then you can actually just connect to it directly from here. So here is the command. It's SSH. That was the protocol we were using in PuTTY. Then it's pi at that same IP address in the video, 192.168.42.1. Hit enter. It'll ask you for the password. Again, go ahead, put it in. It won't show up on the screen. And there you go. Now you're back to that same Linux terminal here.